Let me set the record straight, once and for all. June 6, 2001. Game 1 of the NBA Finals. Los Angeles Lakers, Philadelphia 76ers. Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, Phil Jackson. The so-called unbeatable dynasty. A team marching into the finals at 11-0, undefeated in the postseason, already being crowned champions before a single ball was even tipped. And then out of nowhere, walked in Allen Iverson. 6 feet tall, maybe 165 pounds, dripping wet, barely bigger than the average guy sitting in the stands. No super team, no Hall of Fame sidekick, no safety net. Just Allen Iverson, a warrior with cornrows, heart, and an attitude that screamed, "I don't care who you are, I'm coming for you." And on that night, inside Staples Center, Allen Iverson humiliated the Lakers. He didn't just score points, he didn't just win a game. He walked into the Lions' den, faced down Shaq and Kobe at the height of their power, and cooked them like they were a junior varsity squad. 48 points. Let me repeat that. 48 points. Against the best defensive schemes in the league. Against the team every analyst said was untouchable. Don't tell me it was just one game. Don't you dare tell me the Lakers were rusty. That is nothing but revisionist history from people trying to protect the legacy of Shaq and Kobe. Because the truth is simple. Allen Iverson walked into their house and punched them right in the mouth. Think about this. The Lakers hadn't lost a single game that entire postseason. They steamrolled everybody in their path. They destroyed Portland. They swept Sacramento. They humiliated San Antonio. 11 straight wins. No losses, no fear. The media, the fans, everybody had already decided this was going to be a coronation, not a competition. NBUT Allen Iverson? He never got the memo. He didn't care about the Lakers' record. He didn't care about Shaq's MVP dominance. He didn't care about Kobe's killer reputation. And he sure as hell didn't care about Phil Jackson's Zen master nonsense. All Iverson cared about was walking into Staples Center and proving, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that heart beats height, wool beats size, and fire beats fake toughness. And make no mistake, that's exactly what happened. Iverson turned Staples Center into his personal playground. He hit contested jumper after contested jumper. He drove into the lane against Shaq, a man nearly twice his size, and still found ways to score. He broke down defenders, embarrassed Tyronn Lue, and left Kobe chasing shadows. He owned the court. And THAT wasn't just a win. That wasn't just an upset. That was one of the greatest individual statements in the history of basketball. Allen Iverson told the world, "I don't need a stacked roster. I don't need a 7-footer backing me up. I don't need respect from the media. I am enough. My heart is bigger than your dynasty." And that's why this moment matters. Because in that one game, in that one night, Allen Iverson didn't just beat the Lakers. He exposed them. He reminded every single person watching that greatness isn't about size or hype or reputation. It's about heart. And on June 6, 2001, Allen Iverson's heart was the biggest thing in that arena. Period. Let me just put it like this. The single most savage, most disrespectful, most iconic act of defiance in NBA Finals history did not come from Kobe. Did not come from Shaq. Did not come from Magic, Jordan, or LeBron. No, it came from Allen Iverson on June 6, 2001. One shot, one moment, one step. The step over. Now let's be clear about what happened. Tyronn Lue, bless his heart, was doing everything he possibly could to slow down Iverson. He was scrapping, clawing, hounding him full court like a gnat you just can't swat away. And for a second, it almost worked. Lue forces Iverson into the corner, hands in his face, suffocating defense. And then, Iverson rises up anyway. Pure elevation, pure guts, drills the jumper right in Lue's eye. And what happens next? History. Iverson doesn't just trot back. He doesn't even smirk. He stares Lue down, sees him fall, and steps right over his chest like he was a piece of garbage left out on the sidewalk. NTHAT, my friends, was not just a highlight. That was a statement of war. That was Iverson looking the entire Lakers dynasty in the face. Shaq, Kobe, Phil Jackson's so-called Zen philosophy, and saying, I don't fear you. I don't respect you. You will respect me, and I don't care what revisionist historians try to sell you today. That 1 second, that one step, defined Allen Iverson more than any MVP trophy, more than any scoring title, more than any All-Star game. That step was Iverson's soul in motion. Defiance, rebellion, attitude, the heart of Philly in braids and tattoos. Now let me say this right now. Iverson's step over Ty Lue was bigger than LeBron's chase-down block in 2016. It was bigger than Jordan's shrug in '92. It was bigger than Kawhi's buzzer beater in Toronto. You know why? Because those were basketball plays. The step over, that was personal. That was cultural. That was the underdog, giving the so-called invincible Lakers dynasty the middle finger on live TV in the middle of their own house. And don't come at me with, but the Sixers lost 4-1. I don't want to hear it, because that single win, that single moment, carried more weight than 1,000 hollow rings. You know why? Because rings are about teams. That night was about one man against the odds, against the hype, against the entire narrative of inevitability that surrounded the Lakers. Allen Iverson's step over wasn't just a move. It was a revolution. It was a cultural earthquake that told kids everywhere. You don't have to be 7 feet tall. You don't have to fit the mold. You don't have to bow down to the so-called chosen ones. You just have to fight with every ounce of your soul. NTHE step over is eternal. It's not just a highlight. It's a painting, a poem, a piece of basketball scripture. The Mona Lisa of disrespect. A timeless reminder that greatness is not always about the scoreboard. Sometimes it's about the audacity to stand tall when everyone expects you to fall. And then Allen Iverson, that night, with one step, he became immortal. Now let me cut through all the revisionist history that's been cooked up over the years. Because every time you bring up Allen Iverson's Game 1 masterpiece, what do people try to do? They wave their little hands and say, oh, but the Lakers were unstoppable. Oh, but Shaq and Kobe were in their prime. Oh, but it was just one game. NSTOP, enough of that. Because what Iverson did that night was rip the mask right off the so-called invincible Lakers. He exposed them, he cracked their armor. He showed the whole world that this juggernaut everybody had been worshiping could, in fact, bleed. Think about it. This was a Lakers team steamrolling everyone, 11-0 in the playoffs. Untouched, untested. The media was already crowning them before the series even tipped off. Talking dynasty, back-to-back titles, how no one could possibly compete. Shaq was the most dominant physical force we've ever seen. Kobe was ascending, ready to put the entire league on notice. Phil Jackson had his Zen master voodoo. This was supposed to be untouchable basketball perfection. NBUT then came that night. And Allen Iverson, the smallest man on the floor, the one everybody said couldn't carry a team that far, the one everybody dismissed as a volume shooter who didn't belong in the finals, that guy shredded them. Not poked at them, not chipped away. He took a blowtorch to the myth of Laker invincibility. And Tyronn Lue, he was supposed to be the answer defensively. He was supposed to contain Iverson, please. He got cooked like it was a backyard barbecue. Kobe? Let's be real. That night he was flat out-hustled, out-willed, and outshined. Shaq? Yes, he put up numbers, but guess what? The game didn't feel like Shaq's. It felt like Iverson's from the jump. And here's the ultimate truth. The Lakers only survived that series because they were bigger, deeper, stronger. That was brute force winning out over sheer will. But mentally? Psychologically? Don't tell me Iverson didn't rattle them. Don't tell me Kobe didn't go to bed that night hearing the echo of Iverson's jumper and replaying that step over in his head. Don't tell me Shaq, for all his dominance, didn't feel the heat of knowing a 6-foot guard had stolen the entire spotlight in their building, and Iverson forced that team to adjust. Forced them to lock in. Forced them to take an opponent they thought was beneath them and respect them, and make no mistake, that alone is monumental. Because when a giant gets rattled, when you make them stumble, when you put doubt in their minds even for one night, they're not invincible anymore. Allen Iverson made the Lakers bleed. He took the NBA's golden dynasty and put a crack right down the middle of their armor. And once you do that, The myth is gone forever. That's what greatness is. That's what legend looks like. NTHAT night, the myth of the untouchable Lakers died, and the truth of Allen Iverson was born. Here's my final word, and I want everyone listening to let this sink in. That night, June 6, 2001, was not just another basketball game. That night was Allen Iverson's defining moment. That was the night he took the so-called unbeatable Lakers dynasty and reminded the world that basketball is not just about size, not just about talent, not just about rings. It's about willpower. It's about guts. It's about a man standing in front of a mountain and saying, "I don't care how big you are, I'm coming for you." And let me be crystal clear. Iverson didn't need a championship to validate himself. He didn't need Shaq as his bodyguard. He didn't need Phil Jackson drawing up triangle schemes. And he sure as hell didn't need a super team. What did he have? He had heart. He had fight. He had the soul of Philadelphia on his back, and he carried it with every crossover, every jumper, every fearless drive into the paint. Now, people love to throw around words like greatest performance all the time, but I'm telling you right now, Allen Iverson's Game 1 against the Lakers was the single greatest pound-for-pound performance in NBA Finals history. Not Jordan's flu game, not LeBron's chase-down block, not Magic dropping 42 as a rookie. Iverson's 48-point masterpiece against the most dominant playoff team in modern NBA history stands above them all. Think about what he was up against. The Lakers were 11-0 in the playoffs heading into that night. They were untouchable. They had Shaq at his absolute peak, the most unstoppable force we've ever seen under the basket. They had Kobe Bryant, young, hungry, ruthless, already playing like the heir to Jordan. They had depth, size, coaching, and intimidation. And Iverson, he had none of that. His second best scorer was Dikembe Mutombo, a defensive center who couldn't buy a bucket if you spotted him to change. The Sixers were battered, exhausted, written off before the ball even tipped, and yet Iverson walked into Staples Center, stared down the so-called dynasty, and ripped their hearts out. 48 points, playing all but 3 minutes of the game, scoring in every way imaginable, pull-ups, step-backs, drives, free throws. He was a one-man army. And then came the exclamation point, the step over Tyronn Lue. That wasn't just a highlight, that was a cultural earthquake. That was defiance turned into art. That was Allen Iverson, telling Shaq, Kobe, Phil Jackson, and every Laker fan alive, "I am not afraid of you, I will not bow to you. I will fight you until the very last breath." And here's the part people don't get. It wasn't just about that one game, it was about legacy. Iverson showed us that greatness isn't always defined by rings or hardware. Greatness is about leaving moments that live forever. And to this day, when people talk about Iverson, they don't mention his lack of a championship. They mention that night in Los Angeles. They mention the step over. They mention the time he made the unbeatable Lakers bleed. That's why I call it the cookout, because Iverson didn't just win a game. He pulled the Lakers into the backyard, threw them on the grill, and served them up in front of the whole world. He made basketball pure again. Heart over hype, soul over system, warrior versus empire, NSO. Let me finish with this. Allen Iverson didn't just cook the Lakers. He burned down their narrative. He left ashes on their jerseys, and he etched his name into the game forever. No ring could buy that moment, and no critic will ever erase it. That, my friends, is greatness.